Sir, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you.
I'll just introduce Colonel Rajiv Mishra. He is an ex-NDA, 64 course, NDA, 74 regular, 84 batch. Sir is from the India's Corner, and after seeking PMR in human resources, he worked with corporate for some time and now has been an HR entrepreneur for the last 8 odd years, I guess, sir. 10
Hitting the
years.
10th year.
Yeah. So he will now be giving us information, or rather to say guidance, on the other side of the fence. That is how an officer can approach being an entrepreneur in the HR space, and what it entails and how you go about. Sir, I'll start with my first question. Firstly,
Good.
what it is that you as an HR entrepreneur do? What roles do you perform for your clients?
All right. So there are actually, we started with something and we are doing a little addition. So we started off as a classic training company. So as we are all aware, in the army, we end up, or in the forces, we end up doing a lot of training. So training comes easy. And post my corporate career, I saw some gaps in training which was being provided by companies. So we started with classic skill training, communication, stress management, then went to leadership training, started with coaching, and of course, a lot of outbound, which is part of that. And as we got confidence and customers, moved into HR consulting, organizational development interventions, coaching senior leadership people. So we've had the opportunity of coaching typically X minus two of a lot of public sector banks over the last about 5, 6 years. They've been my clients. So this is what we started. In the last 2 years, Mainstay is a new avatar where we do HR tech, which means that we implement the Darwin Box HCM as their lead partners. So out of the other than us, there are the big four and three more niche consultants who do implementation for Darwin Box, which is a product company. So last 2 years, that's what we have been doing.
Okay, so now to summarize what you're saying, you started as, because I'm also making my notes, you started as a training company, capitalizing on your strength as whatever trainings you had learned in armed forces, and then after that in the corporate. And
Yeah.
once you started getting more clients and more confidence and more experience of being an entrepreneur, you added on more products, oblique services, and now you have kind of morphed into a HR tech company.
So yeah, so MOF means all the other lines also work. So HR Techs is about 30 to 40% of the revenue, and balance of the services still give us about 60% of the revenue.
So, what have been the learnings in uniform as a commissioned officer that you apply to the present venture and which help you as an HR professional?
If I want to keep it crisp and short, discipline first, because although the general sense is that discipline is only an army domain, but discipline is something which is admired across in every industry. And I'm talking about discipline in terms of so time management, commitments. So a lot of your credibility and reputation of as a professional depends on discipline. And I'm just enhancing the meaning of discipline here than what is commonly understood. So that is one. I think effective communication is the second. The army or the armed forces train us to communicate well, to give our point of view in a crisp manner, and to ensure that the other person is able to understand what we are trying to convey. That is second. I think that is something which has really helped over the last about 15 years of corporate career. Handling tricky situations, the ability to firefight, the ability to make do with not everything which is required is the third. And like Sanjay talked about, to tough times. So resilience. I think that's something which we brought from the army. That even in tough times. So his tough time was getting the first job. I think a lot of times the tough time starts after you get the job and adapting to it, and also to a certain extent understanding how the outside world functions. In the forces, we are used to living in a world of trust where everyone is to be trusted. Doesn't work like that, and it takes you some time to learn that. And that is where I think resilience was the fourth big piece which I would talk about.
So I spent only 5 years, but it was a very, very protected environment, I would say. But in CV Street, you are on your own. You cannot expect the kind of, what do you say, the kind of support what we got in armed forces. However, you may claim कि फौज ऐसा है वैसा है, but I saw very less. But I can say that nothing to beat armed forces.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Sanjay.
sir.
Thanks, Sanjay. Sir, you have been in HR both as an employee and now you are also as an entrepreneur. What it is in army, what department or what roles, specific roles do we perform as armed forces officers, which can be adequately and relevantly highlighted in a resume if I, as an officer, I am applying for an HR
So
position?
thanks, Vipul. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is, so when you look at a resume or when you look at HR, so typically transferable skills are which are the key, right? So transferable skills are not domain specific. And when I talk about transferable skills, it is communication, teamwork, collaboration, the ability to manage difficult stakeholders, manage things, ensure that things happen on time. All of these are transferable skills and you can pick them up anywhere. I think this is what is going to be highlighted. If you are asking a specific question, so I think training officer, what you have done in a Paltan, or you've done a training officer of a regimental center, or you have had a training role. Like I was lucky to be an instructor in School of Artillery for 3 years, so that's something which I highlighted. And talking about Sanjay's point, if anyone desires, I can share the way my CV developed when I reached MDI and when I came out of MDI. So I can share that to this group later, or share it with you. You can drop it. In terms of how you highlight these, the second part is recruitment. Now, recruitment and selection and onboarding is a classic HR function, which we have recruited and onboarded ORs. If someone has had a chance to be in a OT officer training school or a officer training academy, that's something you can highlight. If you've been part of a SSB, you can highlight. So assessments, recruitment, selection, three big things which we can quickly pick. Performance management, classic, that's something which we constantly do in terms of writing ACRs for as a company commander or as a unit commander. HR operations is something you can highlight. If you look at any regiment or a unit which is working, or even if you're commanding a company, HR operations is to ensure that your people get what is required. So, in terms of compensation, payroll, or they get their salary in time, they are looked after, they are trained well, they are effective in their role. There is a lot of coaching and mentoring which goes on. Now, all of this can be converted, what you have done, into a language which a civilian HR recruiter will understand. Assessments is the last. And in case you permit, and again, I'm taking this view from I can share two paragraphs from a CV which I had made initially, right? In case you choose to. Otherwise, if you don't have time, I can share it later.
No, I'll take up on all your offers. You may please share them with us. I'll put it in the group so that it has a much wider dissemination.
All right, sure.
Yeah. So further, sir, whatever you were saying, I'm listening.
Yeah. So that's the point. So like when we talk
Okay.
about, so when you look at HR, right? So few roles are, or few departments are recruitment and selection, manpower planning and staffing, training and development, coaching and development, succession planning. All of this can be converted into a language which a civilian understands. And just to pick on Sanjay's point, now CVs now, earlier they were all hand read, so you still had a chance. Now ATSs are picking it only keywords. So unless you have keywords, your resume will not even be seen by a human. Like I implement Darwin Box, which is a HR tech platform. So when a CV goes into it, it is only if it meets certain parameters which is set by the recruiter that it will even come up for a recruiter to read. And those are all based on keywords because it parses the CV.
So, take you up on the offer. I'll request if you can share those CVs with us. I'll share it with the fraternity. My next question would be, sir, is there a specific education, certification, courses you can recommend for officers who want to be one, HR professionals, two, HR entrepreneurs?
So I'll break this up into two parts. So obviously in this group, there are people who are under 35 and there are people who are over 35. For the under 35, please take Captain Sanjay's advice. Go to a proper MBA college. GMAT is a great option. I gave it at 43 and didn't get the required score to get into ISB, but that was the intent. If you are below 35, it is worth investing in a 1 year executive MBA. You can do it from ISB, cost about 36 lakhs now, but you will get a loan. You will earn this back within the first year. You can go to IMM. All the IMMs are offering a executive MBA. IMM Ahmedabad is the best one. Great Lakes has a low score of GMAT to get into, so you can get in at a 640, 660 score with about 8 to 10 years of work ex. In Great Lakes, both the campuses are quite good. GMAT is easier to crack than CAT in terms of the score which is required. So that is one. Now, if you're over 35, obviously you can't waste 1.5 years. And again, I'm talking it as an opportunity cost because you don't know what the returns are going to be. At that time, pick certification. So there is the SHM certification, which has GPHR, SPHR. These are things you can do otherwise globally known. You can do the CIPD course, which is given by a UK thing. You can do other certifications. I picked up coaching certifications. I picked up on psychometrics, so MBTI, Hogan. You can do a few more certifications like I'm assessment center. So XLRI gives you the short courses on specific domain. You can pick those up. Look at your niche and see what you can do. Now, this is now whether you want to be an entrepreneur in HR or you want a job in HR. These are prerequisites because HR is so the entrepreneur is a consulting job. Until you have subject matter expertise, it is of no value because you are being asked to come in an organization which already has a HR team and they are struggling for ABC. And your job is to fix that for them. Whether it is that the people are not taking ownership, the leadership team is weak, there are organizational culture issues in terms of maybe lack of collaboration, teamwork, whatever. Unless you have subject matter expertise, you will not be able to provide this service. So it is not a product, it is a service which you are providing.
Got that, sir. So either ways, one has to have the requisite qualifications, and for officers who are under 35, MBA from a reputed college, some of the ones you named, some were told by Sanjay. And if you are over 35, then the short courses either from XLRI or some of the certifications, the coaching certifications or SHRM, etc. What does CIPD stand for, sir? If you could educate me on that.
So CIPD is a UK certification in HR. You can Google it up, you will find it. So SHRM has two courses, which is the GPHR and SPHR, the global HR professional and the strategic HR professional. So these are well recognized courses. Even seasoned HR folks end up doing it. And CIPD is a course which is UK based and which has a lot of value if you want to work in the Middle East. A lot of HR professionals in the Middle East are CIPD qualified.
Awesome. All right, sir. So now I would ask you another question. Why do you think an officer should opt for HR at all? What would be life like? What would be the money like? What would be the positions like?
So my belief is that once you have been trained by the armed forces and you spend 5 years in that, there is no job you can't do. Okay, so you are a prime example uh, in terms of what you could have done. So why HR? It's a matter of aptitude. So for me, HR was forced on me. I gave the interview in Wipro for operations role, and the HR head who took the interview refused to give me away to anyone in operations, unfortunately, for both of us, because after 2 years, she and I were not good friends anymore. But so HR was forced on me. But so if you like talking to people, if you are love working with people, then it is something you should do. The flip side is that if you want to be the boss, it won't happen because HR is a support function. So if I want to put it in the terms of the army, something like a signals ASC, so you will lead your own team, but you will never lead the organization. In my experience, there have been only two HR professionals who have moved on to be business leaders. One is Dr. Santrup Mishra, and second is the ex-HR head of Wipro. So in my memory, two people only who have moved, but otherwise, support role, you're comfortable with that. You love meeting with people. You love interacting with people. You love being blamed for whatever goes wrong. Yeah.
Money and the positions, etc. Sir.
So, money typically, when you get a job in HR for about 7 to 8 years work ex, it's again a function of your education. An XLRI guy will be at 30 lakhs, while someone from a tier 3 college will be at 8 lakhs. So there is a difference. But if I want to put it in a army officer's perception, with about 8 to 10 years of work X, you will get about 15 to 18 easy. But the good part is that the outside world, although is also political, is also very competence based. So if you prove yourself, you will get your worth in terms of quickly. And again, head HRs of larger corporations or mid-sized corporations, 1.5 to 2 crores per annum is a common salary, but that's with about 15 years of work.
So my last question would be very broad, and you can have a free run without hesitation. Now, with around 30 plus years of experience overall with you, out of which 20 plus in the organization, and being an XND and an officer from a non-technical arm, which is the bulk of the officers who come up from all the three forces, what would be your advice to the officers who are now transitioning or thinking about transition or will have to?
So again, different age groups, right? And I missed the 50 plus age group. Right? So 50 plus age group, please try to become an entrepreneur. Don't look for a job. You will not get the required respect or a job which is worth your experience and competence. Pick up anything, but do that. So yeah, what is my advice? I think one is you need to prepare for transition, prepare for being on your own. Like I said, lack of trust. So we go very trustworthy all over the place and then doesn't work too well. So my boss and I, who loved me 2 years, we had a issue because I trusted everyone and was very open with everything. And the world doesn't work like that. That is one piece. Okay. So you need to prepare for transition. Also, the most important part is to prepare your family because they are the people who get impacted most. So if they are there, they understand that all the joys of the forces which are there, the camaraderie, the easy friendship, someone coming to your house at 2 o'clock, if you are sick, it happens in civil. I'm not saying that, but doesn't happen as easy and as simple. Prepare in terms of your education, your qualification, your competence. The second is that understand what is your niche and what is your interest. If you love people, HR. If you love finance, there. Love IT, go there. But please also be sure that if you have 20 years of work ex and you expect that, let us say you've been doing IT in the army, that you will get a job which a civilian who has been doing that job for 20 years, you will get unlikely because typically what they look as is relevant work experience. So although we have experience, but it is in the army, it is not in a client facing environment. And that is why possibly your value in terms of money will be half of what the other guy is doing. So know your niche and what is it that you desire to do. The next step is take 2 years to prepare your skill sets and capability. Takes you 2 years at least to build all this. So if you do a full-time MBA, if you're under 35, 2 years. If you are over 35, it will take you 2 years to pick up a few certifications while you are still in the forces and still getting your salary. Makes it easy. Preparation in terms of financial. So if you have a lot of financial commitments, my advice, don't leave the forces till 58. But if you don't have it and you're a little sorted in terms of money, kids are settled or on the verge of settling and you have adequate captain for a rainy day, then yes. So all this is part of preparation. The last, and this I am talking about, if you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, please understand who is your customer and what that customer wants and how you will provide it. Now, it's a classic sales and marketing piece which I'm talking about here, but unless you know what service or product you are going to give, who's the customer, what does that customer want, and what is it that we are differentiating from what is otherwise there. As an entrepreneur, typically you will not do too well.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah. You gotta work, never tell, keep your head down.